Hey, what's up, people? Here we are, new day. Um, all right. So, not like not the earliest start, but you know, it is what it is. Let's go ahead, set our timer, 68 minutes. All right. They actually put me in an easier spot in my job today, which is like I've never worked in that spot, and it is so easy compared to the other spot I was in. It's just, it's a lot easier. I had like, I don't know, 150 less packages than what I normally do. So it's a big difference. But anyway, I don't know if I'll still be in that spot. It would be cool. Maybe, yeah, maybe they'll let me stay there. We'll see. Anyway, so day before yesterday, we stopped at line 286 and things to do. We are continuing population of the save list. So let's go over to 286, and I don't even have to look because it's gonna be like the first one, or it's gonna be like right here. So we forgot to change this to current. But did we not? Okay, so we didn't finish this one. So we're on player, and that's just where we stopped. Alright, so the next one is going to be ID. So let's go ahead and look for that dot ID and specifically player. So this one is assigned when the player is created, right? I think. And our extensions need to be restarted. Yeah, so ID is passed to the initializer as an argument whenever it's created, or what is that called? It's not. Is it an argument, or is it called something else? Python init param entries upon initialization. Are they called args? In Python, the parameters passed when an object is initialized are commonly referred to as arguments. So yeah, A and B are called parameters, and when you're instantiating the class, they are called arguments. Okay, yeah, so I forgot. Like, I wanted to make sure that I was using the correct terminology, and it turns out that was indeed the right one. Okay, so this is gonna be no, because they're instantiated again whenever we like restart the client. So yeah. All right, meld requirement. Let's see about meld requirement. So meld requirement. Let's see if this needs to be saved. So it is a calculated property, right? So it's really just like a function. It's reliant on total score. And I'm pretty sure total score is itself calculated. Yeah, and it's calculated off of finished round scores. And finished round scores is, well, that's something that probably would need to be saved. Well, we said no. We said it wouldn't need to be saved. Oh, because it's not used on client side, probably. Let me revisit that one real quick just to see what's up with this one. Finish round scores, and then we have, so it's an empty list. Then we append to it in round score. It's used in total score. And then it's only used in progression. So yeah, it's only used server side. So yeah, this is basically another, not basically, it is. It's another instance of not used on CS at all. What was the one we were looking at? Oh yeah, meld requirement. Okay, so Joe Biden over here. Sorry about that. Why does it do that? Why doesn't it recognize that I already have player open in tab 1, tab group 1? So it is a calculated property, and it's only used on server side. I think those two things alone already like exclude it from the make it so that it doesn't need to be saved. Is that accurate? Yeah, it's not even used on the client side. So why would the client side need to save it? Yep. Okay. Moving on. Easy. Non-maxed out melds. So this is, I did it again. Damn it. I gotta quit doing that. I have to hit Control 1 before I click. So we have forgotten to post our stream. Oh man. Go ahead and give myself a like there. Okay. Non-maxed out melds is a property, and it's only used on the server side. So there we go. Easy money. That's going to be another no as well. Play cards, new ranks, ref. It is supposed to be a list, okay? And it's only used on the... Man, this is easy, huh? I love it. Quick no. The quickest no ever. Alright, so now we got a list here. It's used... Hold up, let me look a little bit closer at this. This adder is not used at all on CS, therefore only run if SS or CS is equal to SS. Okay. Progression. And I like any references to like Python objects, I usually put them inside of single quotes. It just helps it like jump out at me when I look at it. That's just my personal decision. I probably should have used asterisks instead. Asterisk. It was just a decision I made, and I stuck with it. And I was like, oh, I probably should have used asterisk. But I didn't. So, anyway. It's appended to on progression. Blah, blah, blah. Moving forward, it gets cleared. It gets cleared. Okay. In setup, we create it. And that's it. So, yeah, it's not used on the... that was already filled out as no. Okay. Yeah, so that one was no. And then let's look at play score. Play score is a calculated property, and it's only used on the server side. Yeah, so this is another no. So let's go over here. So this is I'm like partially brain dead right now. This is a custom append list instance, and rewrite discard initial play cards. Okay, it's cleared. It's only used in setup when it's created. Yeah, this one doesn't need to be saved, and it's already no. So I don't know, why am I looking at these when they already say no? I'm really falling off here, apparently. Okay, so now we have round score. Round score is a calculated property, and it's almost certainly only going to be used on the server side, which means it is a no. Don't need to save it. Cool. Special case can't draw. Let's check that one out. Oh, it is a Boolean, and it's only used on the server side, it looks like. So that's going to be another no. No, baby. Moving forward. On to the next one. Total score, same thing. It's a calculated property, blah, blah, blah. It's only used on the server side. Lovely. The more no's, the better. Right? When out concealed, Boolean is false. Progression. It's only used server side. So there goes a no. Internal. Let's see. Internal draw card. Oh, that's not even a thing anymore. Remember? We don't have an internal draw card at all. We deleted it, so it doesn't exist. But we do have draw card val. So let's check that one out. Draw card val is if self draw card is not equal to none, so it's reliant on the draw card, and that's the only place it's used. But so we don't. Okay, I'm tripping. We use. So it is basically a function. Like every time you access it, every time it is used, it's used in the context of getting it. And whenever you get it, the getter itself will derivatively assign it. So this shouldn't even be, like, I don't think this should be saved based on that understanding. Why do we even have an internal form of it though? Why don't we just say if self draw card is not equal to none, and then we could just say draw card val equals this rank that we get, and then else draw card val is equal to none and return draw card val. Like, is there a reason to have this even? Because it's like a function. It's just a function. I like to do it this way because, well, it's very easy. See, you don't have to like run a function. You just run the namespace. It's that simple. So this doesn't even need to be a thing. This is dead code. So we're gonna get rid of it. We're gonna get rid of underscore draw card val. It's not gonna be a thing at all. So yeah, this is not a thing anymore. Piece. And now we can change this to where it just says draw card val equals such and such. And then else draw card val equals none. And then return draw card val. Boom. Easy. See how easy that is? Yep. Alright, so the answer is no, it doesn't need to be saved. Well, it doesn't even exist anymore. So boom, how you like that? Meld requirement. And I did it again, damn it. Control 1, then clicky. Alright, so underscore meld requirement equals none. Okay, so this might be another dead one. Might be. Let's see. Yeah, we don't even use it anymore. We actually updated this already. What we just did to that other one, we did that to this one. And we don't use the underscore, and it's only used on the server side, so this is a dead object. Doesn't exist anymore. And I'm just like, man, how many of these do we actually not even need? You know? You know what I'm saying? Like, how many times have I done this? I was bad. I got better. Like, we might end up getting rid of all of them, huh? They are required if you have a getter and a setter, right? Yeah, like, yeah, if you have a getter and a setter, they're required. Because the setter sets the internal, and then the getter gets the internal. So yeah, that makes sense. So there is a use for them, obviously, but whenever you don't have to set them, if you only get them, you don't need to have an internal form of it. So, alright, next one is internal has Canasta. And let's check this bad boy out here. Has Canasta. I think this is another one. Yeah, this is another one. We don't need it. We can just say for blah 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 blah, and then we can just do has Canasta equals true, and then we say has Canasta equals false. Wait a second. I felt like I did something wrong there, but so we just remove self dot and self dot. There we go. Why do we don't even we don't even need that. We can just return true. Yeah. Did I mess up? Let me see something real quick. So we can reduce this even further. We can just return directly. See what I'm, watch this. We're gonna be even more efficient. So you see how we change this from internal right here? We do self dot underscore, we remove that. Well, now we can go even further. So let me put a bookmark here, because this is a clever way to, if you have the bookmarks thing, to not interrupt your undo redo path when you do stuff like this. You can just set bookmarks and undo, set your bookmarks, and then redo and come back and fix it. So I'm just going through doing undo and redo here. So there we go. So it was just one. Let's just go back to it. See, there, I just used that bookmark. Now what we're gonna do is, instead of setting drawcar val equal to this and then returning it, we're just gonna straight up return that, and then we're gonna return that. See? Return master deck. Yeah, see? So that's even better. Cuts out all the middleman shit, you know? It's extra, all that extra stuff. Peace. So we can remove this bookmark now. So this doesn't exist anymore. Right? Let me make sure I removed every last vestige of it. I didn't. Good thing I went back, because I don't like leaving behind dead code. It clogs things up. It's just, you know, it's just like, it's good practice. It makes life easier for you when you do things the right way, you know? It doesn't have to be like 1000% perfectly clean, but I'll say like 99%, you know? You get to that like 99% code cleanliness, it just goes a long way. It's nice. Alright, so this one is gonna be probably deleted as well. It's gonna be another one of those instances. So let's check it out here. So meld requirement uses self.totalScore. Okay. And then self.totalScore is calculated. So instead of rerunning this, though, because technically this reruns it, that function, over and over. But what we can do is, does that make sense what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure this reruns it. Whenever we do self.totalScore, that's invoking this getter, which has to do this sum calculation every time it's invoked. But in this context of this little meld requirement property calculation, it's not going to be changed. So there's no reason to recalculate it. We just calculate it once by saying total score equals self dot total score, and then we would just do total score from this point on. Does that make sense? So now we're only calculating it once, and we're saving it to like a new memory address instead of it recalculating it every time. It did add one line, but who cares? It's just way more efficient. So let's go back to this. Okay. So total score just returns the sum of self.finished round scores, and it's only used on the server side, so we don't need to save it. And as a matter of fact, we don't even use the under total score anymore at all. So this was just a dead object. So it's kind of cool that we're getting rid of some dead code through this, because that was one of my tasks that needed to be done. So this is kind of like knocking out a part of that, which is, it's nice. So let's continue. Boom, 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 boom. All right, there we go. And now we're here. We're at, this is no. Okay, so we're done with this one. Awesome. So now we're gonna go through and add each one to the list, because that's how we do it. So let's go over here to save logic, and as you can see, we're adding the objects as every one that ends up being a yes, we end up adding. One was not the same. Okay, and now we just basically copy over. I think hand is already in here. Yeah, we do. We have P1 hand, P2 hand. So this is going to be player. Player. Name is also okay, moving on. So hand name, we need to start off with melds, and then, well, I guess we can put this next to ones we already have in there. And the first one is going to be melds. And like, are we going to do it in terms of P1 versus P2? Wouldn't we just handle it in terms of melds? Well, no, yeah, because there's P1 melds and P2 melds. Yeah, they have to be, because of the way that we save it. Well, actually, hold up. The way that we save it, let me see. Okay, so this is a little bit not confusing, but I need to refresh my understanding of this. Let's go down here. Let's put this right here because we got it ordered like by file. So this is associated with the player file, obviously. So whenever we save them to the database, how is the name structured? Like, if we're saving the P1 hand, do we save it as, well, we would have to, right? Because we're saving a P1 hand and we're also going to be saving a P2 hand. And if we saved both of them as just hand without a prefix designating which one or two it was associated with, that would be a duplicate. And since we have the object name as the unique identifier, there can't be duplicates. And we wouldn't want there to be duplicates, because then how would you know which one was for P1 and which one was for P2? Well, you wouldn't. So there has to be some way to designate. So they are saved with the namespace of P1 and P2. Well, they have to be. Which means when we load them in, if we're checking object names, the most straightforward way would be to also include the prefix. So we would save it as P1 hand and we would load it as P1 hand directly. we would just have to have like code, which was the next step, that would, whenever we come across this p1.hand object name, we will grab the p1 object and then assign the p1 hand equal to whatever the val is. So yeah, I just had to remind myself how that works. So in that case, for melds, we need to do p1.melds and then p2.melds. Do that make sense? It does. All right, same thing. Okay, so play cards is going to be next. So we're going to copy it. And now we're going to say p1 dot play cards and then copy this player. Now we're going to copy that, and this is going to be p2 play cards. All right, go back over here. This one's going to be done now, and then let's copy pre-sort play cards, asterisk, go back over here, put p1 dot, paste that in. Actually, we can just copy this and then add in pre-sort underscore, and then we can copy that and then put p1 and put that one first. Bam. Alright, next one is going to be red3 meld. We'll put our asterisk, go back over here, we're going to p1 dot red3 meld, copy player, copy the entire thing, oops, copy that, paste that in, boom. Then you go back over here, and this is going to be a no, no, no. All this is no. Is there any, are there any more yeses? No. Okay. So that was it. That's not, that wasn't a lot at all. Yes, 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 and then no, 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 no. Just want to double check. Always give everything a double check. It's just a good decision, okay? Alright, so we're done with that. Moving on to the next file, which is going to be progression. I got 35 minutes left. My protein coffee over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and open that file up. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I got pretty good at this, didn't I? Let's just be honest. Okay, so progression is purely server side, literally done. Like, there's nothing. Server side only. There's no reason to save that. Let me just think about that for like 5 more seconds. Let me just look at it, look at the beginning, make sure there's not something like... Yeah, we set up the logger. Yeah, no, this is all server-side stuff. We don't have to save any of that. Okay, moving on. Next one, reconnect logic. Alright, so this one is going to be current now. So that's one we're working on. And let's open that bad boy up. What is this? Created by Claude. I let Claude do the work for me? What a failure. Below section, created by Claude, line tracking system. Should work but needs to be tailored for a specific application. Oh yeah, because I was going to use a dynamic line tracker for saving based on like specific checkpoints at a particular line and stuff. This solution automatically tracks line numbers using a separate thread. To use it, just wrap your main client code with the tracker initialization. Created by Claude. Add in various functions which associated with a checkpoint to ensure proper data assignment. Couldn't we just put all this, like, do we even need this file anymore? I don't think we even need reconnect logic as a file. Like, should we have our own file for reconnect logic, or could we just add it into save logic? I don't really know, like, what the convention is, because they might see it as a function, and I know the thing with functions is, like, functions are supposed to have one purpose. You know what I'm saying? So technically, reconnect logic is not save logic. I personally would classify it under, like, the same general umbrella. But let me just ask what like worker what like a company would want you to do this as, because obviously that matters, right? Python, if I have a file called save logic full of, not full, just that has code for saving to DB, etc. Do I need to create a new file called reconnect logic to handle reconnects which load from the save file? Or would it be categorically, conventionally acceptable to place those functions inside of the save logic file? The answer depends on how cohesive the logic is and whether reconnect logic is part of or tightly coupled with the saving loading responsibility. It's totally acceptable to place reconnect related functions in save logic if the reconnect logic is directly tied to loading saving state. Your reconnect triggers loading save state. The file is still easy to understand and not bloated. The name save logic still makes sense semantically. It contains load, save, and persistence related recovery code. When to split into reconnect. Split, if any of these are true. Reconnect logic grows into a managing network, session states, or retry timers. It starts importing things unrelated to saving, like WebSockets, network protocols. The file starts doing more than one logical responsibility. So yeah, there we go. This is what I was talking about. More than one logical responsibility, violating the single responsibility principle. You want to unit test reconnect behavior separately from saving loading behavior. If reconnect logic is just a thin wrapper over loading save state, and reconnect quantity, return load state, then keep it in save logic. But if reconnect logic becomes a larger system concern, gotcha. Let the complexity of logic be your guide. I like that. I'm gonna get that tatted on me. Let the complexity of logic be your guide. I like it. Like, it could grow, and that's the concern. Like, things start off small and then they end up growing. That's how custom append list was. Custom append list was small, and then I ended up adding a lot to custom append list, but I wanted it all to be triggered off of the append and pop and shit, so like it was complex in a way, but it reduced complexity in a lot of other ways, so it's kind of like a trade-off. Should I keep it? Or should I? Basically, reconnect logic is really going to be determined inside of the client file, and it's just a few lines that checks to see if it is a reconnect. And if it is a reconnect, all that we really end up doing is like reconnecting them to the game that they were connected to, which also is just a few lines of code. And then once they're connected, we load in all the saved data. And like that's pretty much it, I think. I don't think there's anything else really that happens. It's just that. Yeah. There's nothing else really that happens. We load from the database and we just apply the code. So this line tracker thing. I just wonder, like, what if we end up, like, wanting this? Dynamic line tracker threading thread, init, target thread, save file. While self-running and sub-target thread is alive. Save state with open JSON dump line, self current line stop, self running, get last line, main client loop. If last line is greater than 0, print resuming from line, last line. We don't need this shit. I just don't think we're not gonna end up using this. I don't think. Get last line. And honestly, I could just redo this. This is like, we'll get rid of this. We're gonna delete the file. That file is gone. See ya. Alright. Done. There we go. Okay. Save logic. That's gonna be the one we're on next. And save logic. Well, whenever we reconnect, like whenever we rerun client, it's going to import save logic. It's going to create the database, right? Yeah, it's going to import the database. And that's going to run the file, and that's going to create the database instance. So we don't, like, that's going to be done every time we reconnect. So we don't need to save anything in this file. It's all there. What needs to be there is already there. Will be created upon reconnect or rerun of client pi. I believe so. So this, it means we don't need to save anything from it. Server, so server, I don't think server is the server side, right? Server has nothing to do with client. We don't use the server at all on the client side. Therefore, why would we need to? Yeah, why would we need to save anything associated with it? Yeah, we don't need to save anything. So this is going to be SS only, and this one is going to be done. So that one's done. Next one is going to be setup. So that's going to be current, and setup is like it's run on a reconnect. It's one of the first things that happen. I don't think we need to save any of this because it's going to be rerun like immediately when we reconnect. So yeah, all this is, it's gonna have to be run on a reconnect as the first step. So this one is done, and rerun on client Pi during reconnect. Okay, so that's it. We actually finished the task. Wow. So we finished populating the database.master save object list. That was on 4/28. It took us 16 days actually to do that. Minus like probably 4 days, or well, and then weekends, so like 6, 8, let's say like 8 days. So 14 minus 8, or 16 minus 8. So it really took us 8 days. So about 10 hours. Dude, about 10 hours of work to do this. Fair? I don't know. For a big ass project like this, it's pretty fair. Not terrible. Not amazing, but fair. Ensure checking globals as well as adders. So should we go back and check globals? I thought we did that. Like, I thought... I feel like if it's a global, then when the file gets imported, it's going to be saved already. You know? I know what I mean, though. I don't really feel like going back and checking anything. I feel like we did what we needed to do. Fuck it. I'll give it a once over, or real quick. Alright, so card, we're just looking for globals here. There's nothing there. Okay. Next one is change attribute list. Alright, globals only. Okay, so we do have SS or CS, but that gets assigned like at the beginning of the script. Change attribute list pi client ID. This is set at the beginning of the game, so that's should need to be saved. These should need to be saved. Well, we actually do save those, right? The C1, C2 change attribute list. Okay. So actually, I don't see that in the list. We have these received CalTup list, card group name. This is all game. That's not going to be what we're looking for. We're looking for the C1 or C2 changed attribute list. So we went through client, right? Surely we did. The C1 apply counter and the C2 apply counter. So we added that. Why did we add that, but we didn't add the C1 or C2 change attribute list? Because that keeps track of whenever data is changed. Anytime data is modified, it will be added to the changed attribute list. So I'm guessing, let's see, there's a reason why. So we put, okay, so we went through it and determined that we don't need to. Okay. So I'm going to trust my judgment there. And this is only globals. There isn't actually a class to deal with there. So we're done with that one. Client. Let's check out client real quick. Let's see if we have any globals. Okay. So right here. So that's before we actually start the game, so we don't really need to worry about saving any of that. And like that's being retrieved from the database in the first place. And they're gonna re-choose this every time like they exit and reconnect, so I don't think we need to save any of that shit. Like, do we need to save this serialized client ID, the client ID and the game ID and stuff? Well, don't we already save it? Yeah, we do. We save it right here. And then when we load it, this is the code that loads it. Right? Yeah. We load it right here. Okay. So anything else? Yeah, we don't need to save any of this. What about ready? Do we need to save ready? Well, no, because this is a per while loop iteration thing, right? So we wouldn't need to save ready because well, hold on, let me think about this. So if we didn't save ready, then that means basically whatever was sent but not processed, aka like we didn't finish this while loop iteration and handle ready and like put it inside of our storage dictionary or whatever and like process it, however, you know, we do that by seeing what data is ready. Well, then it would revert back to the previous while loop iteration, and well, it wouldn't revert back to that. It would revert back to that state, and we would have to get the server to resend the most current data, and that was like a thing that we were gonna do because we knew that was gonna happen, or could happen and probably will happen. So let's just say, what if we did save it? Well, if we saved it, if we saved the ready, what exactly would that do? Well, let's just let's say we finish the last while loop iteration, but then we crash before we get to, like, we re-enter this while loop right here. So it's a new iteration, and let's just say we don't actually make it to that line, which is where I was just looking. Let's see. I lost my my place there. Here we go. So there's the while loop, and then so this is actually the main while loop. So if we don't make it to that ready line, and because the save point is going to be the first thing that happens, what that means is we wouldn't have saved ready even if we do save it, you know what I mean? So if we do save it, once we get to this line, we still wouldn't have saved it in that scenario because we didn't reach the line yet. And then when we disconnected and reconnected, we would assume that like we had saved it, but we didn't because we disconnected before we could get there. So that data would have been like in the network buffer or whatever, but it would not have been received. So even in that scenario, we would still have to get them to resend the data. So that wouldn't need to be saved. Like, it wouldn't matter. We would still pretty much need to get them to resend it. Yeah, like, I don't think we can avoid having to check to see if we've received everything that they sent on a reconnect. I feel like that's gonna just like, I feel like that's unavoidable. I could be wrong, but anyway, what are we doing here? Okay, so that is taken care of. We're not worried about that. Meanwhile, loop, client soft disconnect. Yeah, we don't need to save that. We already went over that. And like all this stuff, well, didn't we go through all this? Because this is actually... Yeah, so it would just revert back to the state of the last while loop, but it's not going to save lots of this stuff, right? Oh fuck, I'm getting tired here. Oh shit. I'm getting sleepy. So I'm gonna have to take a break here because I'm getting real tired. But I think that we only have 10 minutes left anyway. We're gonna have to check just to be sure. I know I went over client already, but so we did add all this is reconnect, soft disconnect. We went through all this stuff already. And so all this is derivative of if ready. So like this would just get rerun once we got that data. If we lost it, in the case that we did lose it, we would get it back from the server and then reprocess it. So that would just like kind of take care of itself. We wouldn't need to save any of this stuff because it's all in that context of that. But then right here we have if the receive cal tupless is greater than 0, and then we have our apply list. But the receive cal tupless would be reverted back to its previous state. It would check that. Then it would do the apply list. It would go to apply this data. And whenever it goes to apply the data, well, anytime, well, it adds it to the apply list. And this is data that we should apply. But I think this is another case of as long as we load like the received cal tuplist, which we do have as needing to be saved, then this section would work on the reconnect. because it would be populated and it would just rerun this section. Like, I feel like it's in place, the logic is in place to handle it on a reconnect, to just run naturally. I don't think we necessarily need to save any of this stuff. Well, we do need to save like certain things like the receive cow tupless and all that, but the apply list, but don't we apply, each while loop iteration we apply everything in the apply list, and it's gonna go back to the previous state because this is a single while loop iteration on a reconnect. So that data wouldn't have been applied on the reconnect, and it would still be in the receive cow tuple list, which means it would get added to the apply list again. It would just like go back in time and rerun all the stuff that it needs to run without like us having to load it in. It would just basically redo it automatically. It would just like derivatively create all this stuff. So I don't think we need to save any of that. Yeah, and that's the end of it right there. So I think we're safe here. At least like I'm kind of confident. I'm not 1000% if I'm honest, but I'm pretty confident in that. So let's go ahead and just say we're safe on client. Let's go ahead and move to the next one. We only got 6 minutes left. Let's go to custom append list. Now this one is, that's class adders, and then we don't do anything else, so there's no globals to be concerned over. Alright, so custom logger. This, does it have globals? It has the on off switch. That is set manually by the developer. That is not something we need to be concerned about. Custom time list. So that doesn't have anything, any globals at all. Deck. Let's see what this, so we just create the deck, that's it. That would get created, that's fine. Game. That's the big one. And does game actually have globals? No, it doesn't. So that one's safe. And then locations. This is all associated with class. And then the only global that we have is the funct dictionary. But this gets like rerun on reconnect automatically, so that's doesn't need to be saved. Next one would be locations. Did we not? Is this one we just looked at? I'm that tired. Okay, network. Network has function, class, and network. That's it. Okay. So that's going to be a no. Let's go to player. Any globals? No, no globals. Now progression, that one's server side only. Save logic, don't need to worry about that one. Server, that's server side. Setup, rerun on client pi during reconnect. So that one's safe. Okay, so we're done. We verified, like we checked globals, so we can get rid of this. So we're actually done all the way. What we have to do now is get rid of this list. Well, we'll leave it just for a little bit. And we're going to Determine which function are going to use in final save system. Test append pop clear. Checkpoint globals. Save logic. Save system. Go through spell. Refactor it. Dirty reset back to 0. Okay, and then we need to create logic for reconnect. Apply data. Create function which loads in data from DB on reconnect. Uses the what is called master save object list. Create a function which handles the object name and value to specifically set the proper value the data structures. Yeah. Okay, so that's going to be our next thing. We're going to go to devlog. I'll just say I stopped here. This is 5:14:25. Stopped here. So this is line 12 and things to do. So 11:33 to 12:40, and then this is going to be 12:41 to 12:42. We did to 12:42, and that's an hour and 9 minutes. So that's just, we'll just say 1 hour, and we actually finished population of this list. We're going through which parts need to be saved. Yeah, there we go. And let's copy this. Now let's see if we're on the root of the project directory, which we are. Let's do git branch to see if we're on the right branch, which we are. Git add to stage everything. Git commit -m, double quotes, paste in the devlog. Successfully staged those changes. Now we're going to do git push. And so we push that to the remote repository. Now we're gonna make a local save file. So we're gonna go over here to programming projects Canasta, copy that, change this to today's date, which is the 14th, enter into it, delete the old one, paste the new one, enter inside text devlog, go to the end. That's today's date. Alright, there we go. So we're done. Good progress. We finished that task finally. Now we can move on to the next thing, which is creating the function which loads the data in using the object name, and it's just going to reassign all the data structures like using the specific namespace and stuff, and we have to do that in a certain order. So we need to take that into consideration, and yeah, so exciting. Moving on to the next thing. That's gonna take us probably, you know, a couple sessions, maybe like three or four, and then well, then we need to test it, you know, and that's basically it, guys. Then we're like done with this project finally. You know, there are some other little things like the menu screen. I gotta do the menu screen. That's easy. You know, there's some littler stuff, but like as far as like a big feature, that's it. That was the last feature, I think. Other than like deploying it like and hosting it, maybe creating a website for it. So anyway, that's kind of like separate from the game itself. You know, it's like the game is finished almost after this, and then there's deploying the game. the finished game. Well, then there's testing. So we need to do a lot of testing, deploying it, more testing to make sure it's like works, you know. And yeah, but this is a big milestone. Last feature, almost finished. All right, cool, exciting. Have a good day. Well, if I don't see you, I should come back after I eat, go to the gym, and we'll do some more. Do another session. All right.